Hey everyone, my name is Stravia. Welcome to the second episode of Brown Girl News. So today we're kind of continuing off the discussion from 2 weeks ago, where we talked a lot about the Hindu American Foundation and its work in trying to change the narrative of the Hindu religion in public school textbooks. So actually recently the Hindu American Foundation released its 2016 Bullying in American Schools report. The report contains several very interesting testimonies and statistics about Hindu American kids being bullied and why they may be getting such treatment. So let's take a look at what the HAF found. So, 1 out of 3 respondents said they had been bullied for their religious beliefs. Half of the total sample size indicated feelings of awkwardness or social isolation because of their religion. More than 3 out of 5 respondents said that their schools focused on a caste and made inaccurate claims about Hinduism when teaching about the Hindu religion. 1 in 8 respondents said their teachers made sarcastic remarks about Hinduism in front of a class. And about 1 in 4 respondents surveyed said that they were put on the spot when Hinduism in class was discussed. So the HAF noticed that many of the instances of bullying happening to Hindu children had to do with school, the classroom, and interaction with teachers. So the HAF decided to look a little closer into what youth found problematic about the way Hinduism was taught about in the classroom, to see if there was any link between bullying and the education about the Hindu religion. 63% of youth said their unit on Hinduism included the false assertion that Hindus worship cows, 53% said that their schools taught them that Hindus worship idols, and 40% said their schools taught them that Hindus can only marry people of the same caste. One 12th grader in Texas said in testimony, quote, "I have had countless people try to convert me or mock my religion at school. No Hindu child should have to deal with such intolerance and cold-hearted mockery, especially in school. Having an incomplete, brief, and completely generalized unit which only focuses on negative aspects of Hinduism, if that, does not help to dispel the persistent stereotypes." Other studies have pointed to religious groups of the South Asian region being bullied as well. 52% of Muslim students in California have been bullied because of their religion, according to a study by the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CAIR. And not only that, but 27% of Muslim American students say that they were discriminated against by a teacher or administrator. So bullying is a huge problem, no matter what your race or religion is. But it does seem that if you are part of a minority religion, you certainly are a more likely target for meanness. So now we're going to deliberate on this topic more with our panel. So we'll be back. In general, what were your reactions to the article?
I guess just coming from a really diverse neighborhood and a liberal area that Oregon is, I was just surprised to see how many people were flat out bullied. Definitely felt insecure about my religion and whatnot, but it's definitely crazy to see how many people were bullied and just.
I agree. I too grew up I am growing up also in a very diverse community, and for me it always seemed like more of an issue of just, all of us kids kind of need to grow up a little bit and learn more. So I'd say the more surprising thing to me was in learning about how what was actually taught in schools seemed to condone at least the things kids were saying to other kids while bullying them.
Yeah, for me I wasn't too surprised because I think a lot of people, when they're coming from a place of ignorance, they can tend to spew hatred, and even if it's a microaggression, that still can be considered bullying or harassment, so this wasn't too surprising.
Are there any experiences in particular that you remember of either you experiencing bullying based on your religion or race, or of seeing anybody else become bullied because of their religion and race?
I don't ever recall being flat out bullied because of my race, but I do remember just feeling insecure, hiding the food you're eating and trying to blend in with your classmates, not talking about any Indian holidays or just anything specific to your culture.
I never did talk much about my own religion, even though I personally am neither Hindu or Muslim. And I think that did come from a general feeling of insecurity. I totally get that while in school, certain things we learned and things the teachers focused on within Indian culture seemed very almost archaic. But they were looking at India several hundred years in the past. And that seemed really unfair, especially having, seen my parents come from a place like India, which is very modern and was well educated.
I don't know if I experienced that much bullying, like you said. I think a lot of it was internalized hatred. I wouldn't want to have mehendi on my hands because a kid told me it looked like I had a skin disease. So it was like, that's probably not bullying. I wasn't emotionally traumatized by that, but I didn't want to do it the next time. Mm-hmm. So stuff like that. I'd be afraid my food was smelly, so I made my mom make me pasta or sandwiches every day. So just trying to erase your culture to fit in was the main thing, but it was never direct bullying. It was more me feeling so self-conscious that I acted out.
You were mentioning, like Zia mentioned, a lot of this, like you said, has to do with the schools and the way that people learn about India or South Asia or Indian religions.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that you have a year in high school spent specifically on U.S. history, and that goes at most to 1492. You don't really go before that, right? So that's 500 years of history that you spend an entire year on, and then you have an entire year dedicated to the other 200 countries and all of their histories and their current politics. So when you spend 5 days on India and the Indian subcontinent, you're not going to learn that much. So it's really hard to destroy that ignorance if you don't spend time investing in the education.
Mm-hmm. In 7th grade, we studied ancient India, and I remember our teacher made this comment when we were studying ancient Greece, actually. There was some ancient Greek theory about how people reincarnated into beings when they died. And so everybody in the class laughed. And then the teacher's like, yeah, we're going to study ancient India later. They were a little better than the Greeks. That's so offensive when they're actual Hindus in the class, the teachers don't even realize.
That certain focus and just what was focused on, I think, was more than anything was incorrect, and it's a little outdated.
I also don't think the media helps. A lot of people aren't fortunate enough to travel, so the best way for them to experience other cultures is through the media, so it's also altering that.
There's a mistake to classify India as, okay, this one poor nation of just two religions that are constantly fighting, or as some people say, they're both the same. So I think that's also really problematic.